So we could start. Today is well, it's the November 19th, 2025 Energy Committee, Bristol Energy Committee meeting. First item on the agenda is citizen comments and concerns. The only citizen who is not a member of this committee is Ian. Ian, so any comments or concerns from any citizens? Hearing none. All right. Um, Item two, approve agenda. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda, or if anybody has anything to add. No? All right. All good. Okay, and then the next order of business, approve September and October meeting minutes. I know took me a little while to get the meeting minutes out there, but they are out there now. So I would also entertain a motion to approve those two meeting minutes. From Richard, second from Dan, all in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. And that takes us to the first interesting order of business, which is an update on the MERP project. Ian was nice enough to join us this evening. So, Ian, do you want to just give us a high-level update on what's going on with the library and Holly Hall?
Sure. So we're currently working with VIA, as you folks know, and they are in turn working with Silver Maple Construction to be the CM, which is the construction manager for the project.
Cool.
Ideally, this would have happened maybe a few months earlier, but we're a little late to that. But we are moving towards them coming on board. They're putting together a quote for what it might be to be a construction manager. A construction manager would handle all the construction part of the project. They may do it internally. They may use their own mechanical people. They may use their own construction people or craft people. They might sub out certain things, or they might sub out everything. They'll put together a quote for us, and we'll see how much that costs, and we'll see if that aligns with what our budget is. And as everyone knows here, our budget's not huge. We didn't get as much as we wanted for the grant, but we are going to work with what we have. We also have capital building funds and are looking for other resources as well. But we only have a few number of months left to be able to do this project. Not a huge amount, but that's where we're at the moment. So everything's moving along smoothly. I met with them today, and essentially it's the mechanical people and the construction people from Silver Maple that are talking to VIA and also Dubois and King, who were the original subcontractors that VIA hired to do the design of the systems. We met with Dennis, who's the mechanical person at Silver Maple last week, and he threw a bit of a hand grenade in terms of some of the design and his concern about cost and even putting equipment in the places. This is specifically for Holly Hall, putting equipment in the places that Dubois and King and VIA had specified. And so now they're working together to try to figure out what the potential scenarios are. They'll do maybe one for attic space. They'll do one maybe for using space under the stage instead. So they have to work through that. Dennis is the boots on the ground guy. He's the experienced guy. He's the guy who's going to build the system and put it in, and who will probably call if something isn't working or if we don't like it. So he understands his responsibility. He's been at Silver Maple for 3 years, but he did 20 something years at Ryan's in Virgin. So I think he's got the bona fides. I like him. He's very straight to the point, asks a lot of questions like I do, which is always nice to see. And so, he immediately pointed out a bunch of different things. And so we're going through that. It's much uh, bigger changes at Holly Hall versus the library. The plan that Dubois and King and VAA came up with for the library looks pretty good, looks pretty solid. Not a lot of changes there, but Holly Hall was the biggest thing, mainly because he knows that the attic space is very difficult to get to, um, potentially loads of the amount of weight that you're putting up there, as well as unfinished attic space. And so that's where we're at with those projects. But everything's humming along. It seems like Silver Maple are going to join us for this journey, which is great. And so we'll just wait to see what they come back for a quote and how it shakes out.
Nice. Okay. So is it fair to say that like Silver Maple is part of their pricing effort? They're kind of doing maybe a little value engineering, or maybe they're doing a little constructability review just to say, hey, look, you got, your report shows doing something in a certain location, but we think that's not really possible. So here's an alternative way of
Yes.
doing it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll have different scenarios, and even at the meeting today, another scenario is to build a false ceiling up at the top of Holly Hall and put equipment in that. It's going to change the design and look of the hall, so you drop it by maybe 18 or 20 inches, but that enables you to hide a bunch of stuff. Um, that was just another idea, so they'll entertain that, I guess. I'm not sure about that myself. I feel that any additional weight that we keep adding to the roof that wasn't designed for it is a little bit scary. I'd much rather see equipment maybe under the stage. That seems a safer bet, but it does change what you can put there and how you are distributing air, both for the ERV and for the heating and cooling. It might be something where the proposals or the scenarios that we get from Silver Maple have some pros and cons, and we might have to choose one that isn't 100% what we wanted, but maybe it's 85 or 90.
The one that can
A
get
lot.
built.
Yes. And part of it, and Dennis understands that we don't have a huge budget, and so he's looking at that as well. Can you put stuff in those two rooms at the back, both the hallway room and the storage room, hanging things under the stage to be able to save and not have the time to go up in the attic. Some of the equipment, I don't even know how we would get into the attic anyway, so that's part of that. Um, but yeah, so we'll get the scenarios. I'll present it to when we get those, I'll share it with everyone so everyone can take a look and just see where we're at. Um, but yeah, it's interesting to sort of have someone come in. Again, as I said at the top, like I wish we were here 3 months earlier and all those people talked together, but it's just the way that things have shaken out. But I think it's fine that they're on board now. We haven't agreed to it, but I'm hoping that it's not too astronomical and it's within the budget that we have. But I also feel that if we have the opportunity to do this, I think now is the time to do it. I don't think we can phase it. I know that the select board, certain members have talked about phasing, and I don't know if that's even possible, given that I think we would just lose the opportunity to be able to do all this work, much needed work on the building. So I'd even entertain sort of potentially asking voters to move some capital funds to the building reserve fund and able to bolster those if we really needed those. That would be, uh, a more complicated thing to do, but it is something that's on my mind. Like if we really did need this, I'd hate to sacrifice some of the work that's been put into this and only do parts of it. And it's
Yeah.
it's even difficult to see what parts we might do and not others because
Right.
everything is connected.
How do you make those decisions? How do you carve it up in a way that doesn't feel like you're just hacking and slashing willy-nilly and
Yes.
it not being sort of a thought out
Yeah.
process?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
would
if
we
we
ever get back to doing it if we didn't?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's
When
always
would
there's
we?
always grants. It's harder to get sort of historic preservation grants that focus on the mechanical versus, exterior stuff. And so that's a little bit more difficult, but there's always opportunities. But we have all this experience right now. And so to just tear out and do the insulation, but not do the air and heating system and cooling systems sort of defeats what we want to do. If we don't do the insulation and just do the heating and cooling, we've got that, but then it's just leaking out of the building.
Right. You're just
Uh,
pouring energy out, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see,
Right.
but they know what we have to work with. They know what the original amount was, and so I'm hope they're cognizant of that. And this is primarily for Holly Hall. This is the library has a good amount of money, and I think that seems to be at least once we get there, that seems to be covered. But we'll see.
Yeah,
When do you expect to get
I have
those
a couple
quotes?
questions. Oh,
And
sorry.
I'm sorry, when do you expect to see those quotes?
It's going to be another month. So it takes time in terms of just working with their people internally as well as getting prices from subcontractors uh, to be able to give us a reasonable, detailed quote. David?
Yeah, I had two questions. One is that one scenario you talked about lowering the ceiling. When we have to involve the state historic, um,
Yeah, all the discussions that we had today,
yeah,
they were Asher and Nick were very cognizant of uh getting Greg down here again to take a look. I did make it clear to them that depending on their authority, um, I'm not prepared to sacrifice things in the project if they don't have absolute authority over our decisions. I think with the library, it's a little different because of the way that the funding is. He's very nice, and I respect that, but I can't let their suggestions, no matter how strong they are, drive this for a building that needs these kind of things. We're trying very hard, and I'm not looking to slap a whole bunch of stuff on there, regardless of, to get us the best fit. But I don't want to sacrifice things and in 10 years or 5 years or 20 years realize I wish we had gone this way and hadn't chosen this direction because of historic preservation. The buildings are always changing and always will, so we try to do the best we can.
Yeah, I think that would, reason I asked that is I think that would have a big impact on the brackets and the detailing at the ceiling.
Yes.
It would be a huge
Yes.
deal.
Yeah. The
My
ceiling was
second,
the ceiling was just an idea that Nick and I think Du Bois and King, the other Nick from Du Bois and King, were talking about today, and they presented it in an email that Nick just sent to us. So it's just a concept. It was just another idea that they're throwing in, like, is this a possibility? Given that Greg's sort of hesitance with bringing in the walls and the detailing inside, lowering the ceiling by 18 to 20 inches and completely redoing it does change it considerably. And it's a big space, and you would get used to that. But I have a feeling that they probably wouldn't be too excited about that. But I also feel like building all that infrastructure and then building more stuff on top of that, it just seems like we're adding more to structures that don't have the ability to do that unless we completely redo them. So anything on the ground seems a much safer way, but that's up to the engineers to sort of figure out.
yeah, and the other question I had was the select board are they being briefed on this, or and yeah, I think the intention is maybe in the next meeting or the select board meeting that there's going to be maybe a presentation by you. And I was wondering, are you going to be prepared to have this decision on which way we're going with that at that time, or is this will be just sort of an
No,
update?
so I've been generally in select board roundtable, I've been updating as working with the town administrator, updating the board in terms of where we're at. A lot of it is decision making it's below the select board. It's town administrator or the engineers and the people that we've hired. In terms of a final direction, I think that's something that when we get that quote from Silver Maple, then we look at it internally and share it with the energy committee, and Greg and I are looking at it, and other neat people who need to be involved, rec department, and look at the different scenarios. And I think then it gets presented to the board in terms of the discussion. The idea of with you can update the board on a lot of things, but it's also a lot of select board stuff is sort of decision making. So I think we want to get a good idea internally what we'd like to do before it's presented to the board, because I think it just you can update, but it starts to muddy. I've discovered over all these years, I like to be very transparent and bring stuff, but part of it too is that certain things stick in people's minds and they tend to go back to those things even though they're well beyond discussion. And so I'm trying to make it more efficient in terms of the use of select board members' times. I'm obviously an unusual select board member that I'm very involved in a lot of things. And so it's a matter of like, okay, let's slow it down and bring things to the board when decisions need to be made at this higher level. But the board is being informed. There's nothing that's going on that the board doesn't know about. And hopefully, if you ask them, they would tell you that.
Along with that, it's not like you'd need to come back to the energy committee to ask us about it. If like if the select board has a meeting before our next one and just let it go forward, make it go forward. You don't
Sure.
have to wait, and waste time. We
No,
are
no.
all on board.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I want to feel that you're part of the process and you're looking at and seeing what's happening in those areas. And
Yeah.
if big decisions are being made, Nick brought up the point from Du Bois and King, Nick, he was a little bit concerned about like, oh, if we start to go in these other directions, does everyone involved, I guess he was concerned about people coming back and saying, well, how did this change happen? And then, would have to answer to them. I said, no, everyone who's needs to be involved is being updated. And so the Energy Committee, I feel, is part of that. There's lots of moving pieces. And so I tend to update you guys when there's sort of a significant update.
Yeah.
I can't update you with all the other stuff, but most of it is like it's not too exciting at the moment. It's like
Yeah.
literally waiting for contracts and fingers crossed and praying that people are actually going to commit to this.
Yeah.
And so that's a big part of it right now. But I think it'll move very quickly. And I think the looking at the different scenarios, I think will be one of our biggest decisions in terms of weighing up, like if we can do the attic area, is this really what we want? Is it if it's that much more? I mean, the select board chose a direction in terms of tearing out the walls versus
Just filling
the
them with.
yeah, versus filling them. So, that was a bigger decision, which had a certain price tag attached to it. But now we sort of have to revisit this with these new scenarios and having a construction manager. We keep adding, companies to this process, and each one of those
Mm.
companies has a certain price tag that'll be attached to it. And so really it's going to come down to like, can we actually can we get the funds that we need to be able to do this important thing?
Do you
Um,
do you feel
oh, go
confident?
ahead.
Do you feel
You go.
confident? Um, the select board will be supportive of, I know we have 325, and I thought that the original was, somewhere near like 575.
Right. It was like 571 or something. I know.
Are you confident that there'll be money to cover that?
I mean, we would essentially deplete the entire building fund, which isn't great, but this is one of the most important things that we're doing for a key building that we own in town. It's had lots of deferred maintenance. We're trying to shore it up to have it have another 100 years or more. And so I think it's one of those things that, we will be replenishing. We replenish every year with capital funds, and we're budgeting at the moment and working towards having those discussions very soon. So it could be something where we add a little bit more to that capital fund, knowing that next year we'd be pulling from that. Ideally, you wouldn't deplete, but I think with a case like this, and if the pricing at the library is below what our estimated, what our grant is, I think it's something where we necessarily we wouldn't need those funds immediately to use on another space. So I'm hopeful, but I know that until we see what Silver Maple presents and those figures, as I said, they know what the grant was and they know what our estimate was, and both Asher and myself and Nick and Greg are been very specific. Like we have very very little money for this project, so we're hoping that's going to work to our advantage. And they're working with a number of towns. Silver Maple are at the moment with the same kind of projects. So they're familiar with this, which is good for us. So I think we'll see what happens when we receive that, hopefully within a month.
It's also a project that Silver Maple is doing in the town I live in, which is kind of
Yes.
cool, right? I mean, this is Silver Maple's hometown,
They started here in
and they live
uh
here still, right?
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Tim and Mike still live here. Sean lives elsewhere, and they're based in New Haven. But yeah, I mean, I hope that works in our favor. But they are a business, and
yeah,
so and there's only so much they can cut their prices down before it doesn't work
yeah,
for them.
yeah,
But I'm hopeful.
yeah. I remember when we did the thing with we did Button Up with the whole town, and Nate Gusekoff was
Yep.
going to be one of the contractors, and he worked for Silver Maple, and he kind of disappeared and went to back to work with Silver Maple and didn't do his thing, and so later someone else had to take his place.
Yep.
I
Yep.
just
These things happen. He's no longer
Yeah,
with Silver Maple. He's an independent person now,
yeah,
doing the energy stuff. And I know that VIA is contracted with him to do some work on this project too, in order to get certain things for us. But yeah,
I hope they all come through really well this time. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, I hope so too. I mean, Silver Maple is a big company. They've done lots of very large projects, so I have full confidence in them. And as I said, meeting the HVAC person, their mechanical person, and their contractor, they were both great. Asked lots of questions, and so I think we're in good hands. It all depends on what that bottom line is.
I'll just say I don't know Silver Maple. I haven't been around long enough to be familiar with all the players, but it seems to me that if they're bringing in subs to come talk, to bringing in their discipline experts, they're mechanical and like they're serious about it. It seems to
Yeah,
me. I mean, you don't bring that, you don't mobilize a little bit, a few more than just one or two people. If you bring in your construction experts, you're looking at it pretty close and you're sharpening the pencil. So
yeah.
maybe
It's all their
that's
internal people, but they've spent a number of hours with us, and so it seems like they're serious. And I think, hopefully once they get their numbers, and it might be something where they present it and it's 600,000 or 700,000. We don't know, but we have to wait and see. Any other questions on the MERP stuff, if you have them for me?
yeah. Does anybody have anything else?
The only question I had is, it seemed like there was a little confusion about the reporting. So I guess, is there like a quarterly reporting, that has to go out on like what's been spent thus far? And are we all clear? Is
Yeah.
Frida taking care of
Yeah,
that?
Frida is handling that as the grant administrator. And
Okay.
so a lot of it now has been fairly minimal in terms of just working with the contracted engineer and architect. It'll start to ramp up as we get quotes in and hopefully accept them and then start to move.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
but all of that is being taken care of internally.
Okay. And I know you and I talked about this, but as we get further into it, if there's any, I'm offering, not really as a BEC member, but personally, if there's
Sure.
any help that I can provide, I'm happy to do what I can in the new year. So just let me know.
Okay. That's great. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think that there'll be lots to do, and it will be interesting to see how this comes together. But thank you.
We all want to see it be a success.
Yes. Right.
Okay. Well, pending no other questions, I think we've about murked ourselves out on this meeting. I don't know, Ian, if you wanted to hang on and for the rest of the meeting or if you want to drop off either way, feel
Well, I
free to
noticed you have
stay.
the EV chargers. Do you want me? I know that's not on the agenda.
Oh yeah, we can jump around. Sure, let's do that. If you want, I know some folks on this call. I know I've talked to a few people, maybe even on Saturday. We were chatting a little bit, but yeah, I think maybe if you could just on
Sure.
the two different, the level two and the level three, and kind of where things stand on both of those would be great to hear about.
So the last update, and Ben has seen this, but some of you may not have. This is from Norwich EV. This was Barrett. This was on October 22nd because I kept following up and asking, hey, are we actually doing this project? This is for the level three, as I said. He says, apologies for the delay. We've been busy dealing with the repercussions from the sunsetting of federal tax credit and withholding of federal grant funds. In short, we were able to make the Regens project work, because I asked him about that, with a combination of grant funds and tax credits on the project. It is unlikely that we will be able to complete this project before the June 2026 deadline. As such, we are working through potential options with the grant admin, state, and GMP to find a way to make this project work. So that's the answer from Norwich. I've spoken to Zach Casey, who's the energy guru, energy design innovation guy at GMP, because I was sort of frustrated by this since we hadn't heard from Barrett. I talked to Zach before I got that email from Barrett. And I asked, like, what our options are. Can we move to another vendor? And essentially, because Norwich is the one that initiated the grant, we would have to ask them to release it, and then we would have to find another vendor to take it on, which I don't know if the Energy Committee is interested in doing that. I've been fairly disappointed with Norwich. I know that they've gone through a lot. Maybe they've got some business problems, maybe they've had some personnel problems, but very little communication with them over the last year and a half for this project. I felt that I put a lot of work in trying to make this happen. I was disappointed that Norwich didn't talk with our town zoning to even see if this was possible. So that was disappointing to discover that we don't even have the ability to put these in currently. And we'd have to work on an interim bylaw to do that. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if we want to pursue someone else. Zach did say that he recognizes the town that Bristol is an area that needs this kind of infrastructure, especially the level three. We're in a perfect position to do that. And he told me that if we can't get this done through them, then he might be able to use some of his allotted budget in 2020, I think he said 2028, to get level three charging in Bristol. But whether that holds out or not, it's up to him. And we also might lose our location. Maybe it goes to another landowner who isn't supportive of something there. Any number of things could happen. So ideally, Zach would like to see this project through this grant because the money's there. Um, and it's just sort of working with Norwich, maybe. But I don't know if any of you want to take that on or have any ideas to be able to move it forward. It seems like we're kind of trapped, and
Yeah.
it's obviously not a town project. It's a Norwich EV project on behalf of, for the town. So we can't use sort of town, not pressure, but you know what I mean?
I don't
Yeah.
have any
Yeah.
leverage.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. And I don't want to lose that property owner. At the moment, we have a property owner who wanted,
Yeah.
very little compensation to have that on there. And
Yeah.
so that's where we're at with level three. Questions?
Yeah. At the VCAN conference, I saw someone from there, and I asked them about it. I said, "Hey, we have we got on board for a EV charger, a thing, from Norwich, and we haven't really gotten there." And they whoever I talked to said, "Oh, well, we'll look into that or whatever." And I also saw online when I looked up Norwich, they had a big advertisement. Hey, we're looking for people who want an, three
Yep.
phase. I'm like, you've got someone who wants one. Get over here, like what's up with that? They're
Yeah.
really not really paying much attention to us, and we have put it out there that we want it.
Yes.
So I really don't like the way they're doing that or why they're doing that. They're looking for people. They're looking for places where they can plant the thing, and we've got it right here, and we've already talked to them.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Don't know what's happening with them. From the once we got it, regardless of the zoning ability, it was still always a question of being able to pay for the town to pay the property owner. That it wasn't part of their business plan to do that, which I think seems short-sighted to me. Even Tom, the business owner, property owner said that. He assumed that it would be part of their business plan. You would charge a certain amount to be able to make money, to be able to offset those costs. And so I don't know. It doesn't seem great. I love that they got it, and I like that they're working with us on it. But at the moment, like hearing very little from them and very not cryptic, but just not very good updates to where we're at. It just, it's very frustrating.
I think that's what gets me the most is that if the communication is rough at this stage, there's going to be a need for a lot of communication going forward.
Yeah.
If this actually happened, uh, they just aren't going to go away, and we'll never have to talk to them again. So it
No.
it feels like this is kind of a sign that maybe they just aren't the ones for us.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it is a standalone project where it would run by itself. They would run it. The town isn't involved. The town would be compensating. We initially the town agreed through ARPA funds that we had at the time to compensate the owner. Not a huge amount, but I think it was for 5 years. When Norwich came back with their contract, I think the contract started at 5 years and then could be extended till 10. Tom was concerned about that extra 5 years and who would cover that. And I was prepared to go back to the town to see if we could assign additional ARPA funds. Since that time, because it's been a year, those ARPA funds were moved into the general fund and then had to be used for emergency payments for other projects that the town was doing. So at the moment, those funds have been depleted, and so we don't have that option anymore. So, there are a couple things. I mean, there's a number of things working against us with this particular project, unfortunately. And Norwich is just one part of that, which is the biggest part.
Yeah, I
Does,
mean, even if we had a ton of money to compensate the landowner, if we don't have a electrician willing to do the infrastructure part, it seems like that's the first order problem to begin with, is the partner that, or the entity that's supposed to be building it. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
the town has to do what, you have to do what you have to do when you have a road fail or whatever. So like that's understandable, but we're not even at a point where like we can try to have a conversation to figure that out. Like we're not even
No.
there.
And we were prepared because we felt that there was movement. The town was prepared to sort of have our zoning administrator sort of move quicker for an interim bylaw for EVs. And I think they've moved it, AZ has moved it until discussion next year, when we start to get into updating the zoning. So not actually doing it as an interim because we really didn't know when this project would happen. I mean, one path forward could be reaching out to Norwich and saying, it seems like this isn't going to happen with you guys. Can you release this and allow us to have another company take a crack at this? And maybe we can find someone who has the ability to do this. We could move on the zoning. I don't see it being an issue. Like it went through planning and went through select board a few times in terms of what would needed to be updated. AZ would prefer to see it as a proper change to the zoning, but we definitely can move it as just an interim bylaw. That's fine. And those can always be changed if someone had concerns. So we could move on that. We still have the issue of compensation for the owner, but maybe that's something that a new company is able to work out in their business plan of how to put this infrastructure there. They would be able to accommodate that, not the town. But I think it would be the energy committee, I think, would have to spearhead that. So if anyone is feeling scrappy and really wants level 3 charging over there, feel free to take that on.
I'm surprised that Tom wouldn't want the EV charger since they have a whole, hotel right there that has people coming
They
that
they
would probably
do.
love to use it.
They do. Mainly the compensation he was asking for was just use of the space and re-graveling and cleaning and grading and things like that. It wasn't a tremendous amount of money.
Okay.
And so we were fine with that over the 5 years, but obviously extending that, you know, if you're a property owner, you can be generous, but there's a point where it doesn't make sense to just give things away to people, especially if you're dealing with a company that has large amounts of electrical infrastructure right there. You're going to have any number of cars coming in, parking, people using that space. It's
Okay.
just a liability thing. Parmelo would do the same. They try
Yeah.
to limit their liability and risk with everything they do. So when I
Yeah.
talked to them before about putting the infrastructure in, they immediately asked all the questions like, what happens if someone runs into it? What happens if,
Yeah.
they have
Yeah.
all those questions
Yeah.
because they're just so used to doing that.
Hmm.
Um,
That makes sense.
so it's just and it was, as I said, it was a small amount of money. It's like, great. But the fact that Norwich couldn't even put that into their quote and said, no, we can't afford to do that, as Dan said, like that kind of raised a little bit like, oh, okay, well, let's see how things go. You got the grant. This is great. Oh, and now we seem to be on this paused
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
So that's level 3, a big, large question mark floating over that. Level 2, we have the grant from, I think, GMP again, managed by a different group. And we've obviously been talking about this since, Sally had mentioned original Energy Committee members. I only joined many years later, but I've been talking about it since then, and that's at least 6 or 7 years. Um, we're at a point now where there's a couple things. We have the money. We had a new quote from Cummings Electric, which was very good, much better than Norwich EV's quote that they gave us for level 2. The grant will cover almost all of it. The town would have to pay about, I think it's about under $2,000 for it, which isn't bad. Um, the select board is still concerned about the location. There's a lot of talk about not putting it on the park. They asked me 2 or 3 meetings ago to see if there are any other places we could put it, and there really isn't. Any other location would either have to be digging underground or digging under asphalt, and that adds to the cost. I'm I didn't reach out to Parmelo because I knew looking at their location, it's all buried utilities back on Prince Lane, and you're trenching and you're re-asphalting, and that adds a lot to the cost. You can add another 10,000 onto the project, and I don't think the grant would cover that. The grant, the money that we have to pay from the grant is because we're already over on the infrastructure, and so we're past that. So that's another 10 grand, let's say, that we might need to add on if we add it, put it in any other place other than the park.
So that two becomes like 12, right? If we're having to
Yes,
bore or cut up a
correct.
bunch of asphalt. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's reaching power. We don't need three phase, which is good. So it can be a place that has just single phase power. I've walked the park with the rec department, both Meredith and Aiden. They both support the park location. We decided finally, looking at all the parking spaces, of which there are 78 on the park. Um, we looked at the last two spaces by the kids' playground, directly opposite the church right there. We felt my recommendation was there. It's at the end of a line. You're not in the middle. It doesn't interrupt what food trucks might be there for different events. At the end of the line, it seems like a natural end to something. Oh, it's a couple of EV chargers. It also allows us, if people, most EVs are smaller, unless you've got your F-150, are smaller cars, which generally are going to be better for traffic flow back there. Any truck that parks on that last parking space right in front of the crosswalk, it's very hard to get the bus around. And the Tri-Valley Transit, it's difficult to turn right there. So that's the location. We have rec department support. I still need to get support from the select board. We also have the matter that the board in 2015, the select board made a policy that you can't put anything on the park unless you take something off the park. It's not a very well written policy. It stemmed from the Planning Commission when they were entertaining having a book box from the library put underneath the kids' treehouse structure. That was something where you're putting something on the park, and there were people concerned about that. So that's where it stemmed from. They asked the board, after discussion of the Planning Commission members, the board to draft an ordinance. The select board drafted a policy, and that's what we have now. I've rewritten it, and I'm making suggestions on how to update it. I modernize it. I don't think we should get rid of it. I think it's a good protection, especially as select boards change, and you could get a board that loves putting infrastructure places and could just do whatever they wanted. Um, and so I'd like to see it where we can update it and actually start to get categories for different things. And maybe an EV would be utility, and it would be categorized differently than a structure or a temporary structure or temporary thing that you put on the park. But I do think it's a big thing to ask, and I think the public should be involved in the discussion of that. So I think if we wanted to put EV charging there, I think at a select board meeting or even an independent meeting, you get some surveying from people, the community, because it is putting infrastructure on the park. Even though it's far in that corner and it's against the cars, you're still changing what the green is. And so I think it's important to get as much feedback as possible. And if it's something where a majority of users and feedback that we get are not supportive of it, I think it's something that maybe we just have to let go. As much as I don't want to do that, I prefer to see a balance of things on there. But unless anyone can find any other place, like I'm willing to look at Parmelo again, I can talk to them, but it's definitely more difficult because you're dealing with another property owner, not town-owned land, and you're trenching. And I know with our limited funds that the board isn't going to support another 10 grand to do some paving. So I don't know, unless someone gives us some land that is a good suitable location. It's at the moment, it's still, again, like the level 3, there's a big question mark in it.
Yeah. I agree that that's a great place forward, except that, like you said, if the truck parks there, I think about more that people to see around the truck to take the
Mhm.
right turn out of there. So
Yeah.
not having cars be there as much seems like maybe two more down. The other thing is, how close is that to the Peace Garden? And isn't there a tree right there, or did that come down?
Other area. So we're on the back side of the park. So
Oh, okay.
it's a long side at the back.
Okay.
So it's those two spots. It's not around
Okay.
the side. Yeah. I didn't want to take away because that's directly
Yeah.
in front of the other church and there are only 10 spaces there. I was using part of the 28 or whatever it is on the other side. Um,
Okay.
so
Um,
there's
you know,
definitely space and it's definitely easy to trench because you're trenching through grass. But it is putting more stuff on the park. And
yeah.
I don't want to see, us just adding stuff willy-nilly.
Yeah. I honestly don't believe that the backside of the park is a good place for it because
Okay.
I'm there so often. I work right there. So I'm back
Yeah.
and forth, walking back and forth. That place gets full of cars backing in and out of there. It's always full. The front side is not full. The
Right.
Yeah.
roadside is not full at all. That's where there's empty spots all the
Yeah.
time. That's where it should be.
Okay.
And
And
that's where people
Actually,
will be able to see it when they drive into town. They don't
all
see
right.
it on the back of
Right.
the thing at all.
right.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. The board, I think at the time, and this was many years ago, probably when
Yeah, I was
Sally
a
and I were
part of it.
working. Right. So
It was
that was
agreed upon a
yeah,
number of times.
it was, and that was something where we had to pay a lot. So we definitely
Yeah,
could move it. I could entertain seeing if it's on the front would be more acceptable.
yeah,
We do have a power
totally,
pole right there.
Yep.
totally.
I mean, one of the strikes against that is that you have infrastructure that's then right in front of the bandstand, and so there'll be
Not right in front. We're talking about further up. It doesn't have to be there, does it?
No, it doesn't have to be there, but it's closest to the pole. Again, you're trying to reduce the amount of trenching you
Yeah,
have to do. I don't think
yeah,
we'd have to trench across the sidewalk. We could trench in green space, but I can bring that back and we can mock that
yeah,
up and just see.
yeah.
But yeah, it's still a difficult place because you have the sidewalk and you're probably trenching under the sidewalk maybe or across the sidewalk, but that's a couple of concrete panels. That's not too bad. We'd have to see if there's enough green space there to actually put concrete pedestal and things like that. I'd have to
Yeah.
talk to Cummings about that.
Okay.
But I mean, I could present that, and
Well,
I guess the
I don't want
argument
to.
could be
Yeah.
made that that's not on the park, that it's in the green space, that it's very close. It's the sidewalk is before that,
Okay.
so maybe
Yeah.
you could use that argument, but I'm willing to put it like I'd like to see it, but I know that people will have, since you're driving through, for people who support EVs and like that, to see that as a positive thing. But I think it works the opposite way for a lot of
Okay.
other people in terms of
I
like
get what you're
putting
saying.
in this sort of very modern,
Yeah.
industrial looking infrastructure right in front of your town green. So
Yeah. In
I understand.
2025.
I understand that side of it as well. Yeah, I know. I mean, if I could put it in the
Um,
Parmelo spot, if Parmelo was supportive, like
yeah.
those first two spots nearest the sign are definitely ideal. It's just the where the power is and what it's going to cost to
Yeah.
get it to that location.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to slow it down anymore. So if people have decided on the back, like whatever, put it on the back.
Well,
I just
no,
needed to say what I thought about it.
it's
I'm
still,
happy for it to just go forward as fast as
yeah.
possible.
The back is the latest location in our very
Okay.
long history of presenting this.
Yeah.
And so we're just trying to move through and see if
Yeah.
that's acceptable. But I think before any of that, it's an update of that policy to even then begin discussing what we might want to put on as temporary things or as permanent things. So we'll see.
And then the next step after that would even be that whole engaging the community and having surveying and seeing like,
Yeah.
okay, the people that have been thinking about this for a few years we've all internally agreed.
Yeah.
Now it's like, do the people here even want this? Like
And
then,
Yeah, and in that updated policy, the select
yeah.
board or may not agree to say, oh, for these kind of things, we're not going to ask for public input because it's a
Yeah.
utility or whatever,
Right,
right? You could do
right.
that.
Yeah. That's
But
good.
I think it's just a matter of even putting that on there. There are other items that we're thinking about putting on the park. There might be like a bike fixing station and potentially um, a portalet for the summertime, so you actually have bathroom facilities there, not just at Holly Hall. But those change the manner of the park and nature of the park and how it looks. But at least for those kind of things, having an updated policy allows us to even talk about those things in a reasonable way instead of looking to a very outdated policy and saying, well, it
So,
says
well,
we
this
got to take
kills
something
that.
off. So
Yeah.
if you chop
Yeah.
down that tree, we can put down that portalet. Like it doesn't make sense at all. Like you need to categorize it so we can even begin to talk about it. Um, but I do think public involvement, because it's such a public space, it's such a cherished space that, and you want to also put a limitation, on there that you're not overdeveloping, even if the public and everyone agrees to these things, that there's a similar care taken over that. but updating the policy is first. So again, yeah, EV is still not here, but it's slowly getting here.
It looked like they were taking down a tree at the corner of that, right, that
Correct. That tree is
playground.
coming down
So
because that, yeah, that's right.
count
But
that in
again,
for us.
yeah, is it like is EV charging the same as a tree? We don't know. The policy doesn't really specify that. So, updating that first, and I think that might come to the select board in a couple of weeks. We got some other priorities first. But those are my sad EV update tales, but I'm still working on it. We'll
Well,
have hydrogen or magic pixie dust before we get EV, so maybe it won't matter.
Thank you, Ian.
Maybe they'll make level threes the size of level twos by the time we can
I mean,
actually do
Yeah.
this.
that would be nice. Or it's
That
all
would be
wireless
good.
charging along the roads or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
right. As you drive, it charges or whatever. Yeah, right.
It'll actually just be Flintstone cars. They'll just be our feet on the
We're
ground.
devolving.
I was gonna say we probably used to have hitching posts in the
Right,
park. We might just
right.
go back to that for horses.
Yeah. I mean, if there's horses getting out, maybe that's what we'll be riding. It's back to horses.
Hmm.
So that's all I have. I've talked a lot. I'll let you get on with your meeting.
Thank you, Ian. We appreciate your
Ian.
time.
Thanks a lot,
Sure.
Ian.
I've taken a bunch of notes, so yeah, this is all good stuff. Thanks, Ian.
All right.
So
Have a
good
good
to
rest
have
of
you
the week.
here, Ian.
Yeah, of
Thank you.
course.
Take
Bye.
care. Okay. I don't know how you guys feel. I'm exhausted just from having those two things to discuss. But we could probably try to get through the next few, I think. All I've got left on here are the SEAC discussion about SEAC and the energy navigators, the tool ship, which I think could go pretty quick, and then we can just wrap up with All Earth Renewables site visit. But so for SEAC, Aspen County Energy Navigators, I know last month we obviously had the Dan and Dave were the champions of October. They were actually at the meeting and listened to the discussion or the presentation from, I think is Mike, right? Is Mike Roy from
Yep.
Middlebury, right? Yeah.
I had a
Um,
conversation with him before those guys did too.
Mm.
He came up to Bristol and I met with him ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I got to talk with him about it.
Yeah. So I think as a group, it seemed like for some of the email traffic in the last couple of weeks that it seemed like we should probably all put our heads together, talk about it again as a group, see what we all think about it, and come to a consensus about number one, do we think that going forward with a ballot initiative at town meeting to provide some amount of funding for SEAC is the approach, or kind of how we feel as a group about that? Because that seemed to be, from my perspective,
Yeah.
that seemed to be the ask from Mike,
Yeah.
was like, hey, here's what we're doing, here's what SEAC does, here's, and most of us I think are familiar with what Addison County Energy Navigators does. But some of the questions that I had, and maybe I'll just say this and then we can have a discussion, but from my perspective, it seemed like the ask is they want funding. They have some amount of funding through, I think it was December of 26, I think is what Mike had said.
So, yeah.
But I think if we're gonna kind of go down that path, it would be good to understand what their sort of like long-term funding plan is. What is their plan? Did they have a plan to integrate more closely with Efficiency Vermont? Because it seems like their missions are very aligned. And so those are the two things that I just wasn't sure, because those would be questions that, number one, people we asked to sign a petition would have, and I don't know if I could confidently answer that. And then we'd have even more people who hadn't signed a petition asking about it at town meeting if it's on the ballot. So that was just my impression, and I'll also say too, and then I'll stop talking, I promise.
I'm
But
imagining it's going to be one of us that's going to have to
Yeah.
try to sell it. It's not going to be Mike Roy.
right, and that's where it's like,
But
okay, go ahead.
I'm just going to say that I thought that was a very good email that you wrote, Ben, and I thought those are great questions. It was just cogent, precise, kind of targeted questions that I think would be the first thing someone would ask you. Like, well, how do they relate to Efficiency Vermont, and why are they not working together? Blah blah blah.
Maybe there's a good answer to that. I just don't know
But
what it is.
Why can't we either get Mike? I think it's too late to get Mike to come to the next meeting, because it's a moot point in December. I mean, there won't be enough time to do it. So I wonder if we should just I don't know, you could just redraft that email and just send that. If other people had other questions, you could add that to an email and let them answer the questions. And if, I don't know, if you need to have a special meeting with Mike, I guess we could do that too. But we're running out of time. I mean, it's going to be the holidays.
Right.
You know, December is going to go like that.
Yep.
People will be away. Sorry, Richard. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I agree. I agree.
I was just going to add too that I think I sort of sensed maybe not a whole lot of enthusiasm from the squad, at least from the point person perspective, and you know I consider it, but I don't think I'm going to have time. I just don't want to be able to, you know, do anything halfway here, and maybe we could all be point people or 1/6 the point person or something, but um if we don't, if we're asking these questions, we're not quite sure, and the enthusiasm gap might be there. Maybe it's not the thing we should do. I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I feel like right now we're just trying to get this, you know, Holly Hall in the library done. And that's plenty of money right there. I don't feel like asking for more money right now.
Mm.
And I also feel like, you know, there are no contractors to do the jobs anyway right now. And our town has been uh, learning about all this stuff for years and years and years through our efforts and other efforts. So I feel like it's not a high priority right this minute. People in this town know a lot about what has been done in homes, and they know to reach out if they need to reach out. And they also know there probably are no contractors. So I don't think it's a good time for us to do it.
I think there still is a role though, because there are people that I know what's going on and how to get the rebates and blah blah blah. But there are a lot of people who don't, and those are the people that we may want to try to target.
I
I'm
think
just thinking of
that's,
that little thing we did at Howden Hall.
yeah,
The people that showed up there, really,
yeah,
I mean, they weren't savvy about all this stuff, and I think
yeah,
Matt Sharp did a great job talking about what's available,
yeah,
and that's Energy Vermont, but or Efficiency
exactly.
Vermont, but but I think there is a need for people to know how to not to use that word, but navigate,
Mhm.
but navigate the system, you know, and navigate how would you go about doing it? Who do you talk to first? And I'm not sure if Efficiency Vermont is I don't know.
Mm.
They, I don't know if they're the boots on the ground kind of people.
Yeah,
I agree.
I've actually asked,
I agree with that. I
Yeah.
agree. They
yeah,
don't seem to do, they don't have the
No.
contractors out there either.
Richard, what's your thinking about it?
Well, I've had the same experience with Efficiency Vermont, um, trying to get information. For example, when I got my plug-in hybrid, um, I called Efficiency Vermont and asked for information regarding were there incentives for the level 2 chargers and that kind of thing. Uh, well, I don't know. Um, and I asked a couple other core questions, and the person was disinterested in provide and even looking it up. I got more from Green Mountain Power. The answer was no, by the way. Um, I'm feeling a bit frustrated tonight because we've put one hell of a lot of work. I know I put a lot of work initially in writing the grants for the MERP, writing those things, and also for the EV chargers. And if you've read the book Abundance, um, you would, maybe that's a problem that I've read the book Abundance, which diagnoses why we can't get anything done in America. And we're seeing it right now. Uh, the kinds of crazy roadblocks that are put up when the money is there. You know, everything is there, and yet by the time we get done, we could lose the EV chargers completely. We could lose the select board could get an estimate of $600,000 for Holly Hall with no other options and say we can't do it.
That's my
Um,
fear.
yeah. So it's a little hard to think about asking for money for SEAC, but on the other hand, I think SEAC actually can get it done. You know, I think they are a group of people who will go into the houses. They're not doing a um, a Zoom audit. They're going in and sitting down with people, which is David, what you were talking about. The people who don't understand what's available or the steps, procedural steps to get it done. That's what SEAC is really dealing with. And Efficiency Vermont doesn't do that. So my head's in two places. How much money did Mike say they wanted? Did he say?
Um,
Wasn't it 500 or something? It was
Is that what,
relatively small.
it was over 3 years. I thought it was like 3,000 over
Oh,
a number for 3 years or something. I mean, over,
oh,
I
right.
can't remember.
I think we were thinking about, or maybe I'm just making this up, but it felt like maybe we were talking about it going for a certain amount, smaller maybe first year, but then as you
Well,
know,
maybe.
you kind of grandfather the idea in year after year, you can ask for a little bit more, but uh,
I mean, it
does
was
that
quite
have
a
to
lot of
come as a
money.
result? Does that have to come as a result of a town vote, or could we approach the select board with a small amount like that? You know, our committee does a lot of work and doesn't get any money. Uh, I mean, directly, we cost them nothing. And
Richard,
would it make sense to say, here's something that's going to be a benefit to our people? Um, it's a really small amount. Would you consider financing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has to, I mean, I know from my personal experience, in order for them to do that, they have to have a petition and it has to be signed by 170 people so that it can go to town meeting and get approved by a voice vote. Because
Hmm.
that's how the select board builds their budget.
Okay.
I don't know if there is a backdoor, but from my personal experience, I don't know of a backdoor.
If we were able to put together the kinds of money that we're saving the town, like 4,000 a year for the Green Lantern solar thing that pays for four of the electric things in Bristol, whatever they're called. And then the 11,000 comes from the solar, the dump solar is like the town is leasing that. So they're getting that. And these are things that the energy committee made happen here, you know. So there are ways that we have been bringing money to the town.
Yeah.
I just want to say that, you know, 11,000 a year for the dump, 4,000 a year from the Green Lantern, whatever it's called down there that happened on 116. And then, you know, we didn't really do this, but the whole solar thing up there, we talked to those people. We didn't really bring it in. It was just they're getting thousands and thousands of dollars from that solar array up on the top of the hill. It's not really we can't take credit for that, but um, it would be nice for them to be able to cough up some money for us to do this other thing, you know, having brought a lot of money into the town.
Now that's having to stand at the up at the old transfer station site on Saturday mornings with a clipboard in December and January. Get the votes, the petition. The other thing is Mike really wants a point person. And do we have a point person?
Come on, Dan.
No, I'm just afraid that I will
I
not
see you
have the
shaking
time to
your
do it.
head.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
blame
the
you.
wrong way.
I think I don't think it's a
let me
one
just
person
ask,
thing. It's a team if we did it.
Yeah.
one interesting thing I think Ben brought up is something about Carl. Is Carl even a possibility?
I just threw that out there because I thought I had mentioned him. I thought he had mentioned to me one time about wanting to be an energy navigator, but maybe
Well, I
that could
think
have been years
he had
ago. I
talked
don't know.
about getting the training to become
He,
an energy navigator.
which he certainly kind of already is since he's a
Yeah.
contractor. He went through the whole schooling to be a contractor. So he'd be the best navigator yet of if he was going to go for it. Except, he's
Yeah.
quit that other job, so he's not really a contractor right now.
Should we ask him? Should we ask him? No one's saying anything.
I think
we
it's
still
hard.
have
I
to
think
do
it's hard
We
some.
to
should ask him. How
justify.
about
I
that?
think it's
How
hard
about
to
that?
justify asking someone who's no longer on this committee to do something like that as
He
the
was
point
actually
person.
he was on the emails.
No, yeah, well, but
On the
he's not the
email.
energy committee member anymore. So that was just me throwing something out there and seeing if it landed on, seeing if it stuck, kind of thing.
Well, he should be on the energy committee.
Yeah, he was good when he was. It was great having Carl on here.
Isn't
he
there like
gave it away
an
that easy.
emeritus or something?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he's basically still on it, right? He never really leaves.
Well, I guess I could be the point person if people are all enthusiastic about doing it. And I think the first step would be asking Mike Roy those questions. And if we're all satisfied with the answers, and I know Dan said he was good for 25 votes for sure.
Yeah, Sally, you can't come over here and
From
start
from
poaching
the
my
yeah,
co-housing
co-housing.
votes.
What did you say?
What's the deadline?
January 15th.
Ooh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the thing.
that's the thing.
Really staring us down the.
Here's the
Well,
thing. What are we going to tell them? We want the navigators here so they can go through anyone's home who wants to have a good look at what could be done to save money um and then tell them, yeah, I mean, are people I just don't want people to be like, okay, we did this, but now we can't get a contractor. That's a drag. It seems like the navigators have to go to school and then learn to be contractors so they can do the work instead of just tell people, this is what you need, this is what you need, good luck. I don't know. What do you think? Is it setting people up for like, try this out? I guess it's free, so it doesn't matter. People
Yeah, it's
get a
pretty,
free, that's right. It's a free thing. So it's not like they have to pay any money.
it gets them in a queue.
Yeah.
Uh, if they understand the process and they get into a queue for a an insulation person, for example, or CVOEO or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, if nothing
Yeah.
else, it's educational, and that's part of the mission of this group,
Yeah.
right? Is to
Yeah.
help educate the people of Bristol. So
Yeah. All right.
how bad would it
I'm
be
getting
for
on board.
how bad would it be for us to target it for next year?
next year.
Yeah.
Either that or instead of having a point person, we all, or whoever wants to, really are a group and we decide to do it together. I don't think anyone wants to do it alone, really. But if we were like, how many of us would be willing to be part of a foursome or a fivesome. And, get together, get jazz, do it.
How long do signatures, what's the expiration date on signatures? Could we get signatures throughout the course of 2025, say at, we will ton of events on the park over the course of the year? It seems like it would be a lot less stressful to be doing that over the course of a long period of time than less than 2 months during holiday time in the cold.
Yeah, I don't think there's any, so if you look at the petition, there aren't any, when people sign their name and their address, there's no date. So yeah, like you say, if you wanted to start, in the spring and do it through the year, that would be fine. You just have to write the petition with you'd have to write the petition with well, it'll be the 2027 town meeting date. So you just have to have your petition written that way.
Well, and I think that we might have better success at whether it's the farmers market or a representation at other events on the green, that where we can actually speak to somebody and maybe we have something to hand out or something.
And I think by then we would know
Standing
more.
by the dump with in a parka.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to really talk to people.
Here's my from all the button up I've done. People don't even think about button up or cold or anything from like May until November and it gets cold. I think while it's cold is when they think about it. Whoa, that's a good idea. I do have a draft. So I honestly think the best time to do it is in fall, winter, early spring, while it's cold out, while they really remember that they care.
We could target the fall, September, October.
I found by being on the green and the farmers market this year with button-up things, no one cared about button-up things. It was summer. It was comfortable. It was no one's thinking about that. It's not until you get cold that you start like, wow, I wonder what we need to do to button up here, So and even when someone goes through a building in the summer, it's sort of like, there's nothing to really check. You can't see, you can't feel air coming in, you can't measure that kind of stuff. It's a cold season job, I feel like. Which is why I think if we did it, we should do it now. While people are thinking about it, they're like, yeah, I do have drafts here. Yeah, I am cold. I would like this. We do need to figure this out. I don't want to go through another winter like this. That's where people are thinking about. They care about it.
Well, that's a good point. And we could do it, but we may not make the January 15th deadline. I mean, we could try, but if we don't make it, I think it's a good question is, are these signatures good for another year? I mean, could we use it for the next year's?
The petition would say
date.
2026, so we'd have to change the year.
Yeah. But we could start.
I'm sure you could go around to those people and say, hey, we got your name last year and we want to do it. So, but we have to write this on a 26 thing. So just bring them the 26 thing, they can sign that one. If it went over the year like that, just we have their names and just say, hey, in order to make this legal, we need to have it on this 26 one. So write it up.
27.
So just rewrite your name here.
It'd be 27 at that point.
Yeah.
I've got to sign off. I don't have the capacity to do it. So, that's the way it is at this point. So, but I have to sign off now. I've got something else coming up.
Yep.
Okay. See
Thanks,
y'all.
Richard.
Okay.
Yep.
Bye, Richard.
Well,
Okay.
it's still cold throughout January, February, March,
Yeah.
April. So maybe
April,
people will still be thinking
May.
about it
Yeah.
even then.
Oh yeah, I think this is the time to do it from now until whenever or whenever.
So let's if I can make a suggestion, Ben, can you send that email to Mike and just say, And if anyone else has a question that they want to ask in addition to that email, or maybe Ben, why don't you just send it to everybody one more time?
Yeah.
All of us, and then maybe we'll think about it a little bit. And we'll say, oh, what about this? Or maybe it's something that was brought up tonight. Let's get an email to Mike Roy. We could probably tell him that we're going to try, but we're probably not going to make it for this year. But our target would be then to do it next year. We're gonna start, I should say. Not that we're going to try for the January 15th.
And when we say try, does that mean we're going to go around and get signatures of people who would be up for asking the town to put money into this?
Yes, if we get these questions and we're all okay with it.
Yeah.
I mean, questions answered, I should say. Why not?
I mean, I
just
think we
saying,
just have to
let's
just
get the questions answered,
yeah,
so we could
get
all
the questions
decide
answered first.
we
Yeah.
want to do it.
Yeah.
We haven't decided we're going to do it. So let's get the questions answered. We'll decide if we're going to do it as a group. If 5 people want to do it, 4 people, whatever.
Mhm.
And by the way, when I say I'd be willing to be the point person, it doesn't mean I'm going to be the only one out there.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely.
But anyway, let's get the questions answered first, and then we could all, through an email, we won't wait till the next meeting. That's too long. We'll get whatever Mike says. We'll read it. Yep. Okay. They're working with Efficiency Vermont, blah, 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 whatever the answer is. And then we'll decide we're going to do it. Does that make sense?
Do we actually already have the questions? Were they sent to us already? So we have them or not?
Ben had
I think
at
so.
least 2 questions in an email.
Yeah.
That
Do
think
you know
I-
what they are? Because we could just tell us right now, because that way we're not, having a meeting outside of a meeting.
that's not a meeting.
Let
He's
me
just
see.
sending an email to us. We already have the questions.
I
Okay.
think my questions were.
Is it a meeting?
Where were they? Let me
That's
see if
not-
I can find them here.
One was the Efficiency Vermont.
Does that violate the meeting law, Sally?
That's what I'm thinking.
Oh,
Like if we were all like having a conversation, making plans outside of this, that's not really cool, that's like making a plan somewhere else, I think. So I think we just need to, if we can do it right now, we might as well do it. Answer the question.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because we're not all on board doing it.
It was November 5th. And what I said was, what did I say here? Okay. This is what I said. I think it will be very critical. I think it will be very critical to potential petition signatories to differentiate how SEAC/Energy Navigators is separate and distinct from Efficiency Vermont, and therefore why the town should invest in it. Frankly, it's not even all that clear to me why SEAC Energy Navigators isn't already part of Efficiency Vermont in order to be part of an organization that is already statewide, has some consistent funding, and is well known throughout Vermont. It seems to me that the intent is to perform energy audits for residential people and connect them to resources that Efficiency Vermont provides for funding, contractors, etc. My other question was, or what the other thing I said was, I think it would be important for energy navigators to provide background info on what the money would be used for, what their financial plan is going forward. They mentioned that Mike had mentioned they're funded through December 2026. And then if there are expansion plans for additional areas outside of Addison County, because Mike had mentioned they were talking to Brandon as well. And I don't think Brandon's in Addison County. So there's a lot of ambiguity and it's not clear to me. And so if I can't confidently understand it, I'm not gonna I can't ask somebody to sign it. I don't even understand it myself. That's where I'm like concerned, and maybe not concerned is not the right word, but I'm just like, I don't really understand this. And I know 2 years ago we had the same conversation. We were gonna get the mini MERP grant and that just cratered. I don't know how that ended up not happening, but that $4,000 was going to be for energy navigators as well, and it just didn't happen. So we've
Right.
kind of been in this loop before with this specific entity, and so I didn't have a whole lot of understanding back then, and I don't, and I know about the same now. So that was where all that kind of came
Yeah.
from.
Yeah. I mean, if we, yeah,
I think those are great questions. I think we should send them to Mike Roy, and that'll be the first step.
Yep.
And
Great.
if we have to wait till the next meeting to
Yeah.
actually decide, we'll have another discussion and then we'll decide. And well, we know then for sure we're not going to be making this.
But at least we'll be more informed about what
No,
about
absolutely.
being able to
That's
actually
great.
do this for 27, right?
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
great.
who
Perfect.
wants to be in the position of trying to describe something to somebody and we don't even know those answers to
Yeah,
those questions?
yeah.
I think
Right.
That's
the
good.
whole thing about efficiency, or what's the connection with efficiency
I think it's a
Vermont?
valid question for someone who's just
Yeah.
an average
And
citizen who's a voter of Bristol who has a
right,
house that leaks air, and they're like, okay,
Yeah.
but I thought, what is it, especially and again, maybe there's an easy answer to, maybe there is an
well,
answer, or there's a 2 minute pitch that Mike has that is like, oh yeah, great, here you go, bullet point, bullet point, bullet
right.
point, but we don't know what those
And
things are.
Yeah,
I think
that's great.
you know this amount of money they're asking for. I mean, that's not going to fund them for very long. So what is the what
Plan.
is the long-term strategy? I think that was another good question that you asked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
let's
like this is
let's
great for
get that
now, but
out.
like if we get it on the if we get a petition and it's no longer subject to or somebody brings it up on like a floor vote or something, but then maybe it doesn't happen the next town meeting. Well then what is SEAC counting on that? Like what is their like business, not business obviously, but like what's their sort of like outlook and plan? And that's what's not clear to me. So
My other thought is so we've had I think two times, well actually three times. So twice at Food Shelf and once at the Veggie Van Go handout. Someone from SEAC has been there and has handed out pamphlets. It would be interesting to know how many people from Bristol have reached out to them to have them come to their homes because I think one of the questions that people are going to ask is, okay, so how many people in Bristol is this affecting? Because I don't think people in Bristol are going to want their tax dollars going to
Mhm.
support a group that's in Cornwall, say,
Totally.
so that's another thing that we might want clarification
Yeah.
on. Is this money going to be, specifically for Bristol residents? Because I think people, taxpayers, are going to want to know that.
Absolutely.
Okay, can we add that question then to
yes,
the
I'll make a note of that. I'll make sure that gets to Mike.
Sorry to add that in, but it's just
No,
something
that's
I'm
a good
thinking
one.
That's
about.
a good
Yeah,
question.
It's
that's
a
really
good
good.
suggestion, Alice.
Because
Very
I
good.
don't know how many people from Bristol have engaged with SEAC, the energy navigators. I don't know. My guess is not very many, but
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, we got people engaged by inviting them all to come to the Holly Hall for a big thing, and then they,
sign up. Right.
that helped. But it is great to go to people's homes. That's really ideal because then they can show you. Whatever. But anyway, yeah. Good conversation. I know it's keeping you up late, Ben.
Right. Okay, so I'll get the questions to Mike, and then depending on what the answers are, maybe we do a little informal emailing back and forth, but we can plan to make a decision in December. That sound fair to everybody?
Sounds
Yep.
great. Thank you so much, Ben, and
All right,
everyone.
with that topic officially done, the next two I think will be pretty quick. So the tool ship, I think this is extremely cool. I think this is really fun. I'm going to share my screen. I think was it Sally or maybe Richard?
Yeah.
It was Sally. Yeah, had pointed this out or saw this at the VCAN conference, maybe.
And
Yep.
both of us said it. I think Richard pointed it out to you, and I also was there, met the guy who dreamed up this idea and sat with him at lunch.
Oh,
And then
perfect. So
and then
yeah,
I went out and saw the tool ship outside. It was
right.
Was
amazing.
that Jeff, Sally?
There was two guys, Dan and Jeff, and I actually
Dan Brett. Yep. Dan's a good friend of mine. He did the art on the outside, and Jeff was
okay.
the creator.
Okay, maybe it was Jeff that I met then. Because
So it
he
looks
said he
like
kind of dreamed it up or something.
Yep.
so I just know what I've seen here. I've never actually seen this thing in person, but it seems to me like this is kind of like a roving community resource that has a bunch of lawn equipment in it, and it's got a solar panel on the roof, and it's kind of like a you can rent it out or you can borrow it for a certain period of time. Um, and it's like kind of but I guess it can be sort of something that maybe we can house in a common space, right, for residents. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know
Yeah,
what our vision for it
I
would
think,
be.
yeah, I think they keep this sometimes at the Brandon Library, the Brandon Public Library, and people
Yeah.
can come there and like check out the parts and stuff.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And
I think that's cool.
I've used those, like I bought myself an Ego mower and trimmer, the batteries and stuff, and it is fantastic. It's so great.
I mean,
So I
this
highly
this sort of
recommend it.
community thing makes a lot of sense. I mean, I know, like, I feel like this is kind of sort of like what we had wanted to sort of do with the farmers market is like have a little solar unit that like demonstrates like, hey, look at this kind of like, but also it has utility.
Yep.
This seems like it has even more utility than that half-baked idea that I know I was kicking around in the summertime. So I think this is cool. What I really like about it is that it seems that there's like a workshop to actually do it. Like we wouldn't, and I don't know how the funding works. Maybe I'm just volunteering myself to look into this, and I will. I can. I think it's cool, and I think it'd be fun to build and have as a resource. Um, but like it would be able to be something that we can wheel around at the farmers market if we decide to go back at a few farmers markets next year, or we can have it at the harvest festival or whatever, like as an example of like, hey, by the way, this is here kind of thing. And it
Mhm.
actually has a good public utility to it. So I don't know. I think this is really cool.
Yeah,
I'm into it.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the visibility of it. And I guess, as we go into 2026 and it
Yeah.
may be that there's a lot of work going on in Holly Hall and the library. So that's kind of a visual, a very visible energy presence as well. But this one really appeals to me because it's kind of a light-hearted way to make a connection with the community. And you know, I I know the guys, so
Yeah,
Yeah. I
great.
know
they
the
they
guys.
got their heads on straight, and I'm sure they could even be coerced into doing some artwork for a Bristol one as well. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I,
what Dan told me was that they are still trying to price it out in such a way that it's, like the most affordable possible. And of course, you don't have to stock the whole thing with everything either. But I mean, I don't think, with the exception of the equipment inside, the rest of it, the housing, the shed, that's minimal cost, really.
yeah,
So
yeah. And there's stuff inside too. I mean, it's something we could probably make ourselves, the outside and then just buy the equipment that goes in, but the solar panel's a big deal. Although you've got them already, Dan.
uh, who knows? Maybe we could just use one of those. Yep.
Or I'm wondering if we could maybe, we could get somebody like All Earth Renewables to kind of partner with us and help maybe fund some of this, because they might be cool,
Yeah.
take
They have a
advantage of
few
some,
panels
take
lying
advantage
around.
of that. Yeah, they have a lot of panels laying around. We saw them.
The thing is, do they have whatever you call it, where you can't copy it?
Oh,
They might
patent.
have that. I think he might have said he has that.
Well, they're giving workshops on how to do it, so I don't think that
Okay,
I don't think
Yeah.
they're trying to protect it.
I
that's
mean,
great.
I think we
Good
could
point.
probably, in terms of like figuring out how to put something together like this for Bristol and maybe house it at the library and let there be some sort of rent out thing. Like, there's a like maybe the next step is like reach out to I guess according to this flyer, Jeff and David, and just say, "Hi, we want to know more about it. We're interested in doing something in Bristol. get a little bit more info on one of these 2026 workshops, just like get some more
Yep.
info on the process. And then once we have an understanding of what this is and how it's done and what the price point is and all that, I mean, this is the type of thing where like I personally wouldn't mind like we do a little community resourcing and we just figure out a way to pony up the money and put it together and donate it to Bristol and say rent it out of the library. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
wildly speculating right now, but I think that's the next step is find out, okay, how do we build this? Who's got the plans for it? What do we think budget wise this would cost? And then we can, once we know that, then we can approach, I don't know,
Some sponsors,
whoever.
maybe
Yeah.
Aubuchon, or
Yeah.
we could approach
And
some other
then we
people.
can take the next step and figure out how we can maybe put something like this together. But I mean,
Yeah.
again, I personally wouldn't mind. I mean, if this is like, I don't know, order of magnitude, I know the stuff inside of it's probably pretty expensive, but just building it out, at least to begin with a couple things,
Yeah.
I think it's worth the mission of what we're doing here to try to figure out a way to make it happen. So
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
I agree. And it could even be that we do go ahead and buy one of them. And then we make another one for the other side of town, ourselves, or whatever.
right.
Mhm.
Right. So I will put my hand up and say I don't mind being kind of I can start the process of contacting Jeff and David and and saying, hey, we talked about this at the Bristol Energy Committee meeting. We're interested and just seeing where it goes. And then kind of being the point person for this if everybody is fine with that. Or if somebody else feels more passionate about it, doesn't have to be me.
It's great. I want to be part of it as well. I don't know Jeff, but
Yeah.
I know Dan, the artist. And he said that, just reach out to Jeff if, you want to. I said we're going to talk about it as the Bristol Energy Committee. And he
Yeah.
said, reach out whenever you guys are ready.
Perfect.
Well, I think they're still, as of, maybe a week or 10 days ago, they're still trying to figure out how they want to do the workshops and stuff like that.
Sure. Sure. We can at least get in there, get in the queue or get on their email list or let them know we're interested and we want to be part of this. So yeah, I can reach out to Jeff and just keep you Dan in the loop and then you and I can coordinate directly and then we can report back to the broader committee if everybody's okay with that going forward.
Sounds great.
I'm seeing a lot of nods. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think this is really cool. I think this is exactly the type of community resource that is visible, is tangible, doesn't seem overly complicated, and yeah, so I think it's really awesome.
Yeah. Feel free to remind Jeff that I met him at the thing and he showed me all about it.
I will make sure I put that in there.
Just so he knows he's
Yeah.
got a few
Not the
personal
first person
connections
from
already.
Bristol, yeah, right. Not even the second person either. Okay. And I think that about covers the toolship. And then the next thing, the last item on the agenda, I know we were a little out of order here and it's getting late, but the All Earth Renewables site visit. I think everybody probably saw we tried to do something on Saturday, didn't work out. It happens. But I think I saw some other email traffic. Sally, maybe we were organizing another one potentially for this Saturday. Is that true? Or was it kind of up in the
Remind me
air
what
with
we're talking about.
the tour of All Earth Renewables?
Oh yeah, right. Totally. Yes. This Saturday, back on board for Saturday the same time. I believe that was it 10:30?
We had scheduled it for 10:30, yeah.
Yeah. 10:30. We're on board for anyone who can make it. And then, we can do another one. He's like, oh, come by anytime during the week. I'm around during the week. Just come in. I'll do a tour with you, So he's like more laid back on, I think it's Tuesday and Wednesday are the good days for him. I'm pretty sure. So could do that. But as far as going on the weekend, if we want to do that, where are you guys at? Are you able to do that? Or not so much now?
I am not.
I knew you weren't. You mentioned
This
that.
weekend's tricky right before Thanksgiving. I don't think I can swing it either.
Okay.
I think I'm,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, same.
Okay, so this isn't really going to happen this weekend. Okay. Is that how you feel, David?
It's not a great weekend for me, but so I was thinking since other people couldn't make it, I would just go to the
Yeah.
next one.
That's
So
fine. That's
yeah,
fine. We don't have to do
I
it.
wouldn't. I was thinking we could just do it in January or when it's a
Yeah.
little
Okay.
slower.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
I mean, I
Let's
think,
do that.
yeah, we'll try to coordinate again. I would hate to go there on a weekday too, just because I feel like they'd be working in there. I feel like on a weekend we got a better chance of seeing the whole thing and being able to take our time, feel like we're not getting in the way, you know?
Yeah.
So
Great. I'll call Jim and say we'll skip it right now and maybe
we'll get
wait for
back to them in
January.
2026. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. All right. Other business. Who's got something else? Anybody?
You probably don't
Everyone's
want any
exhausted.
other business
Wait,
now,
Yeah.
right?
No more business.
Looking at the
Okay.
time.
I don't want to hear
Business
it.
is closed.
Hearing none, we shall adjourn. Thank you everyone for your time. I will type up the meeting minutes. And as always, if anyone has any clarifications, let me know. Okay?
Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks
Ben.
so much.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks,
Have a great night.
everyone.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.